Now, it's new to us to reconstruct arguments and how you go about it, so let's dive into an overview of the process that you need to go through to get a good reconstruction of the arguments. And remember, my class, when we're talking about arguments and I'm asking you to present an argument, it doesn't matter if it's in an essay, if it's in a paper, somewhere else, I expect to see numbered premises and a numbered conclusion. But here's the process you need to go through to get the reconstruction of the argument. Don't get too nervous if you're having problems with it. I want you to understand this. Usually, if I'm asking you to write about it, it's an argument that we've reconstructed together and we've talked about. But I want you to be able to do it because it's a very important skill. Now, the first step in reconstructing arguments is you got to figure out what the conclusion is. Okay, so you read through. First of all, you decide if there's an argument there that's being presented. Good. You figure out what the conclusion is. I should mention, probably not going to happen too much in this class, but oftentimes in life, people don't identify what their conclusion is. In fact, sometimes you might read a letter to an editor in a newspaper, or maybe it's a response to some tweet online, and it's a series of questions, a series of statements, and the conclusion that the person is getting to is not stated. Sometimes you'll see a therefore or a thus that'll identify the conclusion, but we've been through this. You guys are going to have to figure out what the conclusion is. And we'll go through an example of the process, so don't get nervous. I just want to go through an overview of the process, and then we'll go through a real-world example of a moral problem that we're going to apply this to. Okay, so the first thing you're going to do is identify the conclusion. Once you've identified the conclusion, then figure out what the premises are, what the reasons are that the person is giving that are intended to defend or support that conclusion. You get that down, right? You've numbered premises, numbered conclusions, and this can take a few iterations. You might have to do it on a piece of paper, throw it out, fix it up. You'll see how it works out. The next step is sometimes you're going to find that there are what you might call implied premises, or that you might be missing premises, but you should give the person credit for having stated them. So you're going to add implied or missing premises that are going to explain something that the argument was missing to that point. And step number 4 is, and maybe even applies to number 3, is you're going to have to adjust your reconstruction. That is, you might have to go back, find new premises, etc., and you might have to reconstruct it based on evaluating it and finding that there's a problem in the logic, or there's something that's definitely wrong with it. Now, it says adjust reconstruction using the principle of charity. In general terms, the principle of charity tells us that when we're evaluating arguments, remember, we're not in a debate. We're not in a boxing match. Our goal is not to win. It doesn't matter if the argument is in favor of a position that we think is correct or that we think is wrong. Our goal is to make the arguments on both sides of the issue as good an argument as possible, not to make one lousy because the conclusion is not one that we agree with. Okay, so those are the 4 steps, and I think that's how you're going to get an argument in standard form. Numbered premises, numbered conclusions. Let me just reiterate. Let me say it again. Anytime I'm asking you to present an argument, I should say the vast majority of times in writing, I want you to present a reconstruction.